This is War Room Moments, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and most relevant people on the planet, hear their stories, and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. War Room Moments is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board. Here's your host, Jason Miller.
Hey, welcome to the War Room, John Van Horn. How are you, brother?
I'm doing well, Jason. How are you?
It's a great day to be alive, just like every other day. And like I say, we got nothing to complain about as long as oxygen's going in and out, in and out.
That is well themed for today. Yeah.
There you go, especially where you are, for sure. So, anyway, take just like 30 seconds and tell people about yourself a little bit and what your superpower is.
Yeah. So I won't go into my story, but I'll say I'm John Van Horn, Air Force veteran, 02 to 08. I'm now the Colorado regional captain for Tillman Scholars through the Pat Tillman Foundation. I have my hands in many different projects. One of them we're talking about today. It's called Breev. I'm spending a lot of my time in 3 different industries. It's going to be wellness, real estate, and blockchain and Web3. So that's a mouthful. Here we go. let's try to decipher this, Jason.
That is a mouthful. That's a lot of stuff to put together in one. What do they call that? You trying to shove 5 pounds of shit in a 2-pound bag?
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
So anyway, well, I'm always curious to lead into the discussion part of it. Did you grow up in a family of entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders? What did that look like for you?
I didn't. And I think what I find in common with some of the people I served with is I come from a dysfunctional family, and we all do, right? Yeah. We moved around a lot as a kid. Lots of changes. And to be quite honest, I'd love to start with my mom. My mom was my rock. She became a single mom when I was 6 years old. I had 2 older sisters. She worked 3 jobs, multiple, 7 days a week. That whole story of just perseverance and grit coming through my mom, and she did everything for her kids to give us the best chance possible. So when I was the first generation college kid, I was the only boy and the only youngest, so grew up in a house full of women. It was fantastic. And I borrowed her car. To be honest, Jason, I got to tell you the story. I borrowed her car to go to my college orientation in August of 2001. I left in the middle, went straight to the recruiting center and scheduled a meeting with the Air Force recruiter, and that date was September 11th. So it was 12 p.m. September 11th. That was my official meeting. My mom called me hysterically crying from work that morning. The recruiter called and rescheduled, but that was my intro into the military. So I went in for 6 years, active duty, crew chief on C5s, and I was stationed in Dover on those big cargo planes that break all the time. Definitely busy. And for 2 of those years, I was on a special duty team as a flying crew chief. So I flew with the planes during missions to make sure that we didn't break as much. But
I jumped out a lot of those.
Yeah. Well, my job was as a mechanic is to make sure I didn't have to jump out. Right?
Yeah, there you go. Mine was honestly willingly. I willingly jumped out.
To go back to your question, did I grow up with entrepreneurs? I didn't. Not that they weren't. We found every resource to problem solve that we could. And in essence, that really is an entrepreneur, is like, how do I find another way when everyone's going this way? How do I go that way with a better solution? And that's what I saw my mom do. So she didn't start a business until later in life. And the reason why I keep going back to her kind of goes into what I'm doing today. So I got out of the military. I moved to New York City, took care of my nephew for about a year. Then I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, down to the South to start college. And I decided on atmospheric science as a degree path, transferred to Mississippi State University in small town Starkville. So imagine going from New York City, Atlanta to a town of 20,000 people.
Yeah, right.
That was fun. But yeah, so I did that. And honestly, when I was there, I opened as many doors as possible. And I want to maybe even get a little vulnerable here, Jason, and tell you that I had so many business ideas throughout these years that I'm mentioning, especially at Mississippi State. I was a mechanic. Before the military, I was a mechanic in the military. I actually worked as a mechanic, a mobile mechanic in New York City, along with other jobs. And I would always had this idea that I'm on this college campus. Why not do a mobile, like, oil change business and start changing these kids' cars? I never did it. And honestly, I didn't do it because of a level of confidence, to be quite honest. So, and I'm going to get to that soon. I know I'll try to wrap this up. That's
no, you're good. You're good.
Kind of hard to condense, but so a lot of zigs and zags, because I went to atmospheric science, started launching weather balloons with the team at the college, and storm chasing. And I interned with the hurricane hunters before my senior year of undergrad. And in fact, I actually also walked on to the football team there at Mississippi State. And
nice.
I was the old 30-year-old on the team.
Like the basic training, the grandpa basic training that shows up.
This was really funny because the trainers were younger than me, other than a few.
Yeah, sure.
They're younger than me, and one of them was an Air Force PJ, and he so he found out I was Air Force, and he kind of leaned on me. He was like, got these funny 18 to 22-year-olds that some of them are going to the NFL, and he's, pushing them hard, but then he's like, oh, old man, you're in my world now.
Yeah. It's funny because I went to basic training back in 1993, and we had a guy in the class, infantry basic training, and he was 31, and we called him Pappy.
That's right.
But the dude was an animal. I mean, he was an animal, right? And we all looked at, 18 years old. He was like the sage wisdom guy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Which was really kind of cool. But anyway, continue.
Yeah. So I did that my junior and senior year at Mississippi State. I was on the team. I was pursuing the atmospheric science degree. I interned with the hurricane hunters. And it got to the point where I decided, let's train. And so I walked on as a punter. I kind of moved to a scout receiver role halfway through the season. And I was like a kid in a candy shop because I grew up playing football. And when I joined the military, it was saying say goodbye to football. So I trained my ass off later in my 20s to make this team. And when they gave me the opportunity to be a receiver, I was sprinting during plays. I was sprinting back to the huddles. Like, I was the old guy. I was like the Rudy. Yeah. But yeah, so what was interesting from that is that I then interviewed to go back into the Air Force as a meteorologist for the hurricane hunters. And it's a wonderful family-like team. And honestly, my squadron C5, there were about 1,000 people in that squadron, give or take throughout the years, massive squadron. This hurricane hunter family was it was fantastic. It was something I'd never seen in the military. And so I interviewed, ended up getting the job, in process back into the Air Force for about 9 months. The Air Force itself kept screwing up my package to go to OTS or OCS or whatever it's called. And that was a long time ago. And at that point, I was funded through a drone research grant for hydrometeorology research for my master's degree. And after 9 months, I pulled the plug on that dream job and said, I'm 31 years old. I gotta do something with my life. And I decided I wanted to start a drone business. It was my first actual business endeavor that I said, I'm jumping headfirst in, and I had no clue what I was doing. Jason, I made every mistake that you could write a book about. And that's kind of the epitome. And you talked about, what is your superpower? My superpower is falling off the horse and getting back up. And just like, I don't know if I'm just too dumb or if I'm just too stubborn, but I'm not going to quit. So I learned every lesson the hard way through business. And I mean, everything from spending 3 weeks trying to figure out what logo I should put on the freaking website, like just ridiculous amounts of time wasting and money wasting mistakes in a place where I didn't have that time or money to waste. So when I decided to start a drone business, I put myself on a real estate team in Atlanta, very high volume residential sales. I was a listing agent for a year. I sold, it was again, high volume team. I sold 33 homes in the 10 months that I was doing that. And it was all through listing, finishing my master's degree, writing my thesis, and losing more hair from all the stress. So after about a year of that and training some new agents, I decided it's time. Let's start this business. And I went through pivots and whatever else you want to call it, of like going headfirst into it and doing this and whatever steps you find in the first 3 pages of Google of how to start a business. I went through them all. And through that experience, it was extremely frustrating and inefficient, but I ended up running this drone business. And at that point, I met my now wife. She was in Denver. I was in Atlanta. So I made the decision to move out to Denver, bring my drone business. And I ran a drone business for 2 or 3 years. Actually, 2 of them, 2 drone businesses for about 2 or 3 years, one-man show. And what happened, and when I mentioned my mom being my rock, my best friend throughout my whole life, fast forward, I'm running these drone businesses. She's 57 years old. I end up going to, I go to Delaware where she is. She's battling with cancer, and I spend her last breath with my my hand on her forehead and my hand and my also other hand holding her other hand, and having a best friend. I've had friends pass away. I've had, and I'm not comparing this, but the connection I had to her and the way I talked with her throughout the week, it broke me. It was an absolute life-changing moments of watching her last breath. And I came back to Denver and just could not, I just had to do something else. So I walked away from my businesses, did a lot of self-reflection, lots of extreme grieving. I went from, this is total Air Force comment. I had never run more than 4.2 miles in my life because I was a football player. And 4.2, that's really because of the Pat Tillman Foundation. They do the 4.2 mile run. So one day I decided to run 15 miles. And then about 6 weeks later, I'm on a 30-mile loop. And it was a very much like mind body how does it feel to make your mind take over your body when everything hurts? Everything is in. So I went through a lot of extreme grieving, a lot of different phases where I wanted pain and suffering. Then I wanted to go really far inward, figure out who am I, and all this other self-exploration, discovery stuff. And that's how I ended up on breath work. And it's a bit of a gift and a curse, but when I start something, I jump head first, and ask questions later. So
Sure.
breath work was the same way. I did a session, put my cell phone stopwatch against the wall, and I started doing math in my head: 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out. Do that for 10 minutes and this and that. And I ended up at 10 seconds in, 10 seconds hold, 10 seconds out. So it's about a 2-minute breath. I did that for about 45 minutes straight, and something changed in me where I got beyond my mind. And this is like kind of a far out thing, and I don't know what you want to call it, but I got to a realm where I felt connected with everyone. And that was my intro into breath work, was that single session after reading a few breathwork books. Again, there was a lot of wellness methods, a lot of different meditations and whatever else for mind, body, and I guess spirit. But breath work really stuck with me, and I started embracing the idea of spreading it to the masses. That's
Which is what, because we live in an angry damn world right now. The world's it's really, really angry right now. And it's been angry for a while, right? And it's like, it'd be nice if we could probably just do like a world hand holding and just everybody just breathe for a minute, right?
Yeah.
Because, this is why I don't watch TV. I don't watch the news. Well, I'm lying. I do watch TV, but it's more like Puppy Dog Pals and stuff like that with my kids.
That's right.
But I mean, I refuse to watch the news. I stopped watching the news when I came back from my deployment, and one of my last deployment in 2014. I was like, I ain't watching freaking news ever again.
Yeah.
And I've never watched it since. And because it's just, there's nothing good about it, right? It's there's no like I don't care if it's CNN, Fox, MSNBC, it doesn't matter, right? None of it like revolves around making you feel good. It's all around just punching you in the throat and making you feel like shit, right? Because that's like all we have now is everybody's just latched onto this negative garbage, and I ain't got time for it, man. I really don't. Life's too damn short, and boy, we better take advantage of it, because you only hear, if you're lucky and you get 80 out of it, man, you're doing really good. But you think about the grander scheme of things, that ain't very long. You and I are like already like sitting up in the casket.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Jason.
Yeah. That's right. I'll peg a CIB in your anyway. Yeah. So it's it's a great point, and a lesson that I hope people took from that was sometimes just stop and breathe, right?
It's that, and honestly, what I learned was my biggest tool is being my most productive critic.
Yeah,
because I went through a long period of being after my senior year of football, I tried out for the NFL. I tried out as a punter. I was kicking around 5-second hang times, roughly, pretty good numbers. And of course they didn't want my 31-year-old free agent ass. So so, and that was hard. It was hard for me because it was a destructive critic in me that felt that I failed. The productive critic in me would say, you attempted it. So you didn't fail. You attempted something and you removed it off your plate. Now move to the next thing. And I think that's what happens, especially from some of the veterans that I've come across with, is they're extremely hard on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We've almost programmed this idea that you mitigate your celebrations on the wins and try to act humble, but then beat the hell out of yourself with the fails. And I learned that you gotta balance that out. If it's not helping you get to the next stage, next phase, or your mission, on your mission, then drop that shit. Drop it. And a lot of us did that in the military. Is like, what mission went as planned? Please tell me one.
Usually not. Nothing is ever perfect.
Sure. I mean, in as an infantry guy, like, you know that better than I do, because C5s, we expected it to break. That was part of the plan. So, And
you can't predict. This is just life and business, period, right? It is impossible to predict everything that's going to possibly happen in your day, right?
Yeah.
Because there is, a wrench gets thrown in here. You weren't expecting that, an employee of yours had a death in the family, and then, maybe you don't have a lot of staff. So now you got to play that part, but you have 8 other things stacked up in this corner over here.
That's
right? So it's just, life is unpredictable. And, you either figure out ways to, what's the word I'm looking for? Ways to like, shape your day, I guess, right? To where it makes the most sense for you.
Right.
And then be adaptable, right? Because, and resiliency is a big one nowadays. I mean, we are, holy shit, lacking resiliency in a big way. And, all you got to do is get on social media for 5 seconds and it quickly shows itself, the lack of resiliency.
It is. And honestly, I would go, and I don't want to get on my soapbox too much here, but self accountability, I would say is it's something I'm teaching my daughter. Is
Sure.
if you screw up, own up to it. If you destroy, so like actually like kill it and do well, then own up to it and say, yeah, I did that. And that's, you got to have a balance. So with that, with this Breev, which is the name of this breathwork company, I moved to a B2B model because of that. I was a B2C trying to do a mobile app last year. I met with investors saying, hey, I'm trying to raise $2 million seed money. And they said, where's your traction? Well, hell, you don't even have a social following. And I'm like, well, there's a reason for that, because I'm not interested in having a social following. Well, with very little friends, no social following, and no investors, there's no mobile app. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So I moved to a B2B model because I recognized in myself that B2C is not my strength. And it was a model I was following because I felt maybe I should. And I had to go real deep again and say, what is my mission here? My mission with breathwork is to spread situational breathwork to the masses. The best way I can do that is be the engine behind it and create these, consult with businesses, consult with people that have clients and guests and even in-house employee wellness programs, and say, what do you guys need? Because I have the techniques, I have the experience of doing this stuff, and I'll create whatever you need. I'm not attached to my logo. I don't care about colors. So let's do this. Let's add some I don't know, let's add some wellness tools to the chaos of people's lives.
Boy, do we ever need it, right? That's for sure. No doubt about it. But yeah, so I mean, there's been a ton of lessons up to this point, but for those that we need to knock over the head, right, with some of the lessons that we've been talking about,
Yeah.
what is like one go-to thing that you would want a young founder, well, maybe not even a young founder, a business owner, period, could be young, old, doesn't matter. I mean, none of us are perfect. So what would be that one arrow you would say, do this and you won't grab this one?
I'm going to say this without trying to be so cliche, because I don't really believe in the whole cliche stuff. I mean this with a raw look at yourself in the mirror for 20 minutes type thing. Is
Sure.
lean into yourself. What I recognized about me is I had a ton of different backgrounds that came with a bunch of skills. But with that, I had a ton of different insecurities. As far as a knowledge, school student person, I mean, hell, I'm an open book. I'll tell you, I didn't even break 1,000 on my SAT in high school. Like, I was a horrible student. All I did was want to play football. So I had to fight through that stuff. So what I want to say to everyone out there that is listening to this, it's thinking about starting a business or has started a business, lean into your strengths. And do not take shit from anyone, because this is your business. It's your it's your baby, and it could potentially be your life legacy. So go and get it.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. Lean into your strengths. And I always say this, the reality of it, like, I'm all about the superpowers thing, right? That's my thing is, and I only believe you can have 3 or maybe 4 that are literally superpowers. We have lots of skills, right?
That's good.
But skills and superpowers are 2 very different things, right? So,
right. Yeah.
because we can all be generalists and jacks of all trades and masters of shit, right? but the true reality is we're really, really, really awesome at 3 to 4 things. And then find the people that are really, really good at their superpowers are your downfalls.
Exactly. I love that.
And once you do that, you'll knock it out of the freaking park. Right.
Right.
I will just take, for example, the Strategic Advisor Board. That's my company I'm a CEO of. And I found 9 other CEOs that were better at all the shit I was not.
Right.
And it's an unstoppable consulting firm at this point, right? I could go on vacation for a whole year and it wouldn't even matter.
Yeah,
my impact would be none. Well, that's not true, but there'd be some, maybe a little bit. I better give myself a little bit of
you gotta give yourself a little credit. I mean, even creating a well-oiled machine like that's a rare accomplishment. I mean, congrats. Not to
yeah, for sure. So, that's work in what your superpowers are. And if you stay there, man, you'll rock it out of the park for sure. So,
and that's what I'm finding. I'm really settling into that whole, like, okay, I'm not a master of something. Well, maybe I am. Maybe I'm a master of leaning into all these backgrounds.
Maybe.
And that's it. Yeah.
That's it. You bet. Well, hey, how do people get a hold of you, John?
Yeah. So I'm happy to answer any emails. Email is jvh@breev.xyz. I'm more active on LinkedIn than anything. That maybe shows my age, or B2B model.
Well, like my daughter says, she always says, Dad, Facebook is for old people.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, and you could also get a hold of me on it's totally true for me too. You could also get a hold of me on breev.xyz. That is BREEV as in Victor .xyz. And awesome. Yeah,
good stuff. Awesome. Well, hey, I love to close the show out with this kind of final thought-provoking question. And that is, if you could have invited anyone here today, dead or alive, any point of time, doesn't matter. Maybe it was somebody that's based off this conversation. Who would have you loved to have here to listen, talk? Doesn't matter. Who would have you loved to have here and why them?
I mean, it might be a no-brainer after all I said today.
Pretty sure it is.
It's my, my mom. And to be, the reason why is because she was always the one that had me up here. And I was down here. So for her to be here today and see that, yes, I am something of an impact, and I'm something of a force for good. I would love for her to be here to see that and hear this.
Yeah, that's awesome. What was your mom's name?
Kelly.
Kelly.
Yeah.
To Kelly.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
We'll honor her today. We'll call this Kelly's episode today.
I appreciate
How about that. All right. Mom Kelly, today is dedicated to you.
From your mama's boy son.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, we're all mama's boys in one way or another, aren't we?
That's right. Yeah.
So, well, hey, John, thanks for being here. And I really do appreciate you coming on the show and imparting that knowledge to our guests. And I look forward. We're so close together. We definitely got to get together and have a beer soon.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm doing some business in Boulder, so I'll be up there.
God, Jesus, you got my phone number. Call me.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Cheers, brother.
All right. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to War Room Moments with your host, Jason Miller. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.